everyone, welcome back to... Oh shit, what's it called?
From the Earth to the Moon, this one is. Yeah. It's easy mistake. Just power through. Keep
here we go. Hello everyone, welcome back to From the Earth to the Moon podcast. I'm Elton, this is Andy.
Are you sure?
I am definitely Elton, and you are Andy.
There you go, and excellent.
I'm pretty sure. Hang on a minute. Let me just check my. Yeah.
Hang on, I got a label in the back of my shirt here. Yeah, no, it says Andy. Yeah, that's me.
Okay, good. Oh my god, it's going to be one of those episodes, isn't it?
I get the feeling. Already you fluffed the intro, and you're trying to gloss over it. I felt that we had to share this with the listeners.
Oh, you goddamn yes. Well, we are here to go through the episode that is called "That's All There Is." It's from the Earth to the Moon, which was released in 1998. So
that's depressing, isn't it? It's 20 years ago.
Yes, it is. But let's gloss over that as well.
Yes, keep walking.
I feel that there's going to be a lot of glossing over from this episode because I'm just going to go straight into it. Sorry.
Okay.
This wasn't the best episode that they have done. By a long shot, yes.
You didn't? I really liked this episode.
Really?
I did. I'm not messing with you, man. I really liked this episode.
You are pulling my plonker. Nope. You are definitely. Because
I'm not. I promise you I'm not.
Wow, I didn't expect that. I thought it was just going to be, we both didn't quite like it. It was all right. It was part of a series that we quite enjoy. And then we'll move on to the next one. But, okay.
Oh. Scandal, outrage.
Okay,
wow, interesting.
Explain why? Why?
To be fair, I don't know if I like the episode or if I like the mission. So something we said about last time around on the Apollo 11 cast.
Mm.
With the greatest respect to Buzz Aldrin, Michael Collins, and Neil Armstrong, they all seemed a little bit up their own arses. A little bit. That they were very serious. They had a mission to do. It didn't seem like a fun place to be.
Mm-hmm.
This looked like a party boat, though. I'm like, if I'm going to go to the moon on a mission, this looks like the one I want to be on. This looked like a lot of fun.
Right.
And yeah, they just seemed like a lot of fun with the little beanie hats with propellers on top and everything. And just kind of, I really felt like they were good people. And I also feel like this was a much better way to tell a mission than the previous episode. Because what it occurred to me while watching this, which is primarily told from the point of view of Al Bean.
Yes.
The lunar module pilot. It suddenly occurred to me, last time out, they should have told the story from the perspective of Michael Collins, the command module pilot. Because, the whole thing about who's going to be the first on the moon, Buzz or Neil and all that sort of stuff. If you told that from Michael Collins' perspective, almost of a forgotten man, that could have been an interesting way to do it than that kind of weird pseudo newscasty, flashbacky, jumping all over the shop thing.
Yeah, grumpy Buzz, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. But no, I kind of enjoyed this one. Yeah,
because I suppose with the Collins perspective, you would have got more from him as well, wouldn't you? But really, he was kind of a side note it was the Buzz versus, what's his name? Neil Armstrong. Yeah, nearly forgot.
What's his name? First bloke to land on the moon.
Yeah, nearly forgot his name. It just completely blanked on me. Like I said, it's going to be one of them episodes.
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, okay, right. Okay, so I don't know what it was about this. I feel this was more like a Happy Days episode to me. This was...
Do you think it might have been the music?
Because
there's a lot of music playing kind of over the top of things,
It was everything. Yeah. It was absolutely everything. It felt like a comedy episode. This is kind of one of the overlooked episodes, a bit like 10.
Well, Apollo 12 itself is kind of an overlooked mission because it's right between Apollo 11, the first man on the moon, and Apollo 13, where everything went to shit, basically. So it's kind of like it's a little bit of a middle child, I suppose.
And they get all their attention on, and just what they totally deserve the attention that they do get.
Mm-hmm.
But this could have been a really good episode. This could have been like the hidden mission that nobody ever talks about. And yet, it's because it's kind of the joke episode or not joke episode, joke mission, where everyone's just goofing around and it's not as serious as the first time because, we've already done it. So if it goes wrong, well, it doesn't matter. 3 dead astronauts, we'll just pick them up naked. And it's just, it's too quirky for me. They had a real opportunity to show that this was a real precision mission that they conducted here. And yet they didn't do that. It was I'll tell you, jokey.
I'm in no way an expert on Apollo 12. But from what I've read, it is actually quite representative of their personalities and how they were. These were practical jokers. I mean, a lot of the astronaut corps were being test pilots and stuff like that. But, I know... I mean, so this is something I was going to bring up later, but I'll bring it up now. Pete Conrad died in 1999 in a motorcycle accident.
Yep.
And they went and had the ceremony kind of remembering him. And I believe it's at the Goddard Flight Center. What they have as a tribute to fallen astronauts who've passed, they have trees which are lit with colored lights. And Al Bean decided to channel Pete Conrad's spirit. And he said he wanted NASA to light his every Christmas to light his tree with colored lights instead of white, in keeping with Pete Conrad's motto, when you can't be good, be colorful.
Yeah.
And NASA have kind of honored that. And every year, if you go to this thing at Christmas time, all of the trees are lit with white lights, except for his tree, which is lit with red lights.
Right.
Things like the beanie caps, that actually happened. They wore beanie caps and things like that. There's a whole thing, and I was reading about this when I was doing like the background for this episode. They snuck, I think, a tuna fish sandwich into Pete Conrad's flight suit for takeoff. The ground crew did. So he had something to eat on the way up, I think this kind of leads back to what Buzz was saying in the Apollo 11 mission. If the question of being the first isn't a question at all, you can kind of just focus on the mission itself and, for lack of a better word, have fun with it.
Yeah.
And I think with Neil and Buzz actually having succeeded and done the successful moon landing, these guys were free to just kind of, without that pressure, enjoy the fact that they were part of this mission. I mean, if you remember back to Apollo 13, the film, the opening scene when they're in Jim Lovell's house, the guy giving the speech saying, I want to thank you all for joining me for this dress rehearsal for my Apollo 12 landing.
Yeah.
That's Pete Conrad.
Yeah.
Talking about it. So I think that humorous tone is very in keeping with this crew. I think I'm okay with it anyway.
Right. Okay. I get the humor that goes along with it. Right. I'm not trying to be grumpy Buzz about this sort of thing.
I'm glad to hear.
Yeah. That's going into my lexicon. Don't worry.
Yeah, grumpy Buzz.
But I like their jokey styles. I like the way that Pete Conrad can F and Jeff in front of kids.
That was pretty good.
Yeah. I think it's the tone of the mission where it is from Al Bean's perspective. And
you mean stop, freeze frame. I bet you're wondering, what happened again? Bring me here.
It is, isn't it?
Oh, it absolutely is. But again, for me, it kind of works in that kind of, he's a guy who never thought he'd go to the moon. He was never supposed to. And he's just having to stop for a second and go, wait, I need to take stock of how I came to be here. And for me, it worked. And I quite like the lack of pomp and ceremony about it. That the way it's kind of like, again, it's just about these three guys, three best friends, basically, who've got the best job in the world.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Look, they're going to the moon, man. What other three best mates can turn around and say that they've done that? No one else.
And that's the thing. Look, I genuinely think they're friends. I mean, from what we've seen of the other missions so far, you've got to make it on with each other. They respect each other. They're colleagues, and But this is the first time I've really felt a crew legitimately feel like best friends.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of plays in this the bit again when they come back from the lunar surface and Dick Gordon's like, "Well, no, you're done. You're not traipsing in all that moon dust up here." So they go, "Okay, yeah, you're fine." And they just say, "Fuck it," just drop their spacesuits and fly up naked. You got that great bit where Pete Conrad says, "If the hatch blows and we all die, someone's going to find this one day and there're going to be a lot of questions. And I'm just like, that's funny. That is funny.
Look, don't get me wrong, right? I like their tone. I like what they say in this. It's just something very Happy Days, very 1960s American about it, and it's just a bit too quirky for me. It's just not. I'm not expecting the straight-laced Apollo 11 or the downright serious Apollo 13 tone. And I suppose because you have the serious 11 and 13 either side of this, throwing in like a very amusing episode with a light-hearted feel about it, and lads on a road trip basically, it helps with the flow of the whole series. But for me, I still feel there's a great mission here with the way they landed, the precision of the landing as well, and their mission that they had. And I think all the stuff on the moon felt very, very real to me in this episode as well. And I think that became in the background compared to Al Bean and his commentary over the top of it. And it was kind of secondary. It was more about lads going on a trip than the actual mission itself.
I understand what you're saying. I don't agree. I didn't take that away from it myself. Maybe it's because I've seen this more times than you have.
Yeah.
Because I will admit, I know even this time around, when it first starts and you hear that voiceover at the beginning and there's that very kind of southern accent there, I won't say I cringe, but I definitely go, at first.
Yeah.
But I buy into it very quickly. It's also the guy they've got playing Pete Conrad is Emil from RoboCop, which delights me no end. It's quite funny.
Yeah, I love him. I think he's brilliant.
I like it. So it's quite funny there.
I just want to see him walk out of Toxic Waste all the time.
Yeah, a little bit there. But yeah, it just feels like this is a much more what's the word I look for? It's almost like this is a frat house, you know?
Yeah.
The Apollo 12 frat house. And it just feels like this is, if I was going to have to go on a mission to the moon, this is the crew I'd want to go with.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they were a lot of fun. Things like when they were talking about like the timer thing they were setting up to do the practical joke. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm gutted they didn't actually do it, which just seemed hilarious there. I love... I think Pete Conrad describes themselves as the ultimate anticlimax.
Yeah,
it's this being, because again, how do you follow the first manned mission to the moon? Yeah, I mean, never mind Buzz Aldrin, always being the second man to land on the moon. Most people can't even name Pete Conrad and Al Bean.
No, before I watched this episode, Apollo 12 was just the one before the one that they didn't make it to the moon.
Exactly.
And I didn't really know anything about their mission or the guys that were involved.
Yeah. Can you name the Apollo 14 crew at all?
No, not one bit.
Exactly.
The only one I know is Apollo 15, and they do Galileo's experiment on the moon.
Yeah. So because of that, it is a joke to them, I suppose. They're doing all this. They're being paid. Well, they're not being paid, but it's costing billions to send them there and all that. And it's, they want to do the science. But these again, I don't think Al Bean was more than 30 years old at the time.
Yeah, crazy.
Exactly. These are kids. These are, I mean, all of the Apollo 12 one were naval aviators, I think. So Navy boys and everything. And it's just, it's like the ultimate field trip. It's just a week away with the guys, a ton of fun. I mean, I love, again, Pete Conrad's words when he lands on the moon, which were, whoopee, man, that might have been a small one for Neil, but that's a long one for me.
Mm.
And do you know why he said that?
No, I have no idea.
It was a bet. Basically, a reporter thought that NASA had told Neil Armstrong what to say. And Pete Conrad says, no, we're not told what to say. We can say what we want. So he made a $500 bet to say that. Mm-hmm. And he said that when he landed on the moon.
Wow.
And that's it. I actually feel this is actually quite an honest episode in terms of that. And I quite like how, through that kind of narration from Al Bean, seeing it from his perspective. Because again, there's that sense of, he was never going to go to the moon. He wasn't supposed to. There was that, and I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but the other astronaut who was killed in, he had a heart attack or something, was it? The guy who'd been jumping to try and grow the extra height.
C.C. Williams, wasn't it?
Yeah, C.C. Williams.
He was trying to jump to compress his spine because he was just over 6 foot tall, and he crashed in a T-38 spin. Okay,
so he was supposed to be the lunar module pilot, but he died. And then so Pete Conrad brought in Albin to do that onto the team. So he wasn't supposed to be there. And there's just that sense of, whatever else happens, I'm just really glad and honoured to have a chance to be here. And as just some of the dialogue went, like when they land, they goes, you're going to go to the moon, Albin? You go, hey, you want to come too, Pete Conrad? Yeah, I want to go to the moon. There's that sense of wonder and awe about it, like they just can't quite get their heads around it, which I thought was quite delightful. I quite liked also all the little like mementos and stuff they did there, like, Albin left his silver pin there on the moon, and they also left C.C. Williams's his pin on the moon as well.
Yeah, his wings,
his wings, his naval wings. I like things like how the backup crew, Dave Scott, put the playmates in the checklists, which I thought was hilarious.
Have you seen them, the pictures?
I've seen the actual pictures, yeah. They're black and white rather than full color. But can you just imagine you're on the surface of the moon, you're going through this checklist, and all of a sudden there's some centerfold there. It's just like the absurdity of it, the fact that I'm here, I'm standing on the surface of the moon, and someone has taken the time to print out some playmates and stick them on my arm. It just you have to laugh at the absurdity of it, and I think that was amazing.
You have to ask the question: did Pete Conrad slightly knock one out on the moon?
I don't think it was physically possible. I would have nothing but respect if he was able to, but I don't think it was. With him. I think the logistics were probably a problem there. I thought it was quite interesting with the launch. It launches. Firstly, it launched on my birthday.
Oh, November
did it? 15th. Yes. So,
excellent. Sorry, you're still not getting a present though.
Oh, fuck you guys then. But then it got struck by lightning twice on the way up and almost scrubbed the mission there and then.
That is crazy.
That's madness. And it's just listening to all this stuff and everything's going wrong and things are breaking and all that. And it's all this, set SEC to AUX. And I go, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
But the only person who knows what it is Albin. And he's like, I got it. It's set to AUX. And then it works. And then I don't know if I mentioned this in the episode, but if you listen to the actual transcript, they're laughing about it.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we should make sure we do this one in the testing next time. This is a good test. We should remember this for the next one. And, things like that, which I think is great.
And the lightning following the contrail all the way down to the...
all the way down and hitting the tower,
Brilliant.
Which is, again... And I think that did inform later NASA missions about launching in thunderstorms and things like that for that very reason.
And it's weird that they don't think of that sort of stuff.
Well, it never happened up until that point, I suppose. And they probably thought, like with most planes, if the lightning strikes, it will just dissipate. But because the lightning ground going down through the contrail, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So, again, if you don't think about it. But what I thought was very telling is they weren't sure if the pyros for the parachutes were still working. And they're like, can we test this? Nope. Can we inspect it? Nope. Should we tell them? Well, there's nothing we can really do about it.
No, let them go to the moon. They might as well go to the moon instead of turning them around.
That's the thing, though. If they have to turn them around, there's nothing they can do. There's no space station to go and park at.
No, they just die 5 days earlier.
Exactly. So it's like, we'll do the mission. We'll worry about that later. And it's just like all that sort of thing, which was great. For me, this episode really worked. This was a welcome balm almost to the Apollo 11 one. I felt the Apollo 11 story was a bit disjointed, and as we've discussed, it's trying to be this big, definitive, important moment, probably like the mission itself. Whereas this just felt like a really nice, honest, human story about the actual astronauts. And I mean, I get what you're saying about the Happy Days thing, but I mean, it was 1969, man.
Yeah.
Get with the times. That makes sense to me.
Do you know what? I think you're talking me round to it.
I love very quickly when they're setting up the experiment, and the guy goes, "It's very important you keep it free of dust," and they just start laughing, and they're just like, "Yeah, well, okay, yeah, sure, we'll do that."
Well, that's the thing. How do you get rid of that dust? You don't blow on it.
It's just,
you can't get your Henry Hoover out either, can you?
It's the absurdity of it, which I thought was just hilarious there. I really like the fact, and I think this is very kind of interesting. I almost wish they'd done a bit more on this. It's the whole going to the Surveyor 3 probe. Because it's that kind of like going back to this important bit of archaeology, this bit of history. Because this is the thing, almost all the probes that we've launched into space still exist.
Yeah.
They're still there. And it's like, they went back and got this one. And okay, it was only launched in, I think it was 1963. So it's not like it'd been there for 20 years. But when it was launched, the guys launching it never thought anyone would see it again.
No.
Never thought mankind would probably go and touch it or anything like that again. And yet they went there and they basically nicked the camera.
Yeah.
It turned up and go, oink. Which was great. So yeah, I mean, that was launched in 67. So it's only been up there a couple of years.
Yeah.
But it's just that kind of, going back to it. And you can actually go and see the camera. I did see it when it's on display at the Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. And I think they said it was the first time moving pictures been sent from the surface of another moon. It's kind of like if you were to go to Mars today and get like Spirit or Opportunity. The rovers we sent there.
Yep.
So yeah, I thought that was and again, with Apollo 11, they've overshot their landing zone by about, I think, 3 miles or something like that was.
Yeah, that was dicey, wasn't it? And that was a lot of Armstrong involved in that as well.
That was very dicey. That was very much we just need to get it down on the moon, no matter what. Whereas this one was it was precision. It was landing spot on. And I thought that was really cool as well, because especially when you remember back to Apollo 13, where Jim Lovell was saying, "I bring it down for a nice soft landing on the moon."
Yeah,
even better than Neil Armstrong, way better than Pete Conrad.
Well, okay, I don't think there was enough made of that where they actually landed. I know that it was mentioned as what's his name flew over the top of them. Was it Gordon? Yeah, Gordon.
Yeah.
Flew over the top of them. And I just feel that there was more to be given from that. Instead, it was just the contact light came on, they turned everything off, and they fell in a comedic style, bounced around.
Well, they fell and they were like going, "We're on the moon!"
Yeah, and look, I think it's great. I think if I rewatch this, I'll enjoy it a lot more. I think it's got one of them growing type feelings to it. I don't think it needs to be watched, thought about, chewed over, and then watched again, and then you get it. It's like any comedy movie that we watch nowadays.
Yeah.
It's not that funny, but as soon as you start talking about with friends about it, then it becomes funnier and funnier. And then the more times you watch it, the funnier it gets. And I think that's going to happen with this episode with me. And watching them just drop like a stone onto the surface of the moon and then flip out like kids. Now it's funny, but I'm not expecting that. I wasn't expecting that from this series at all. Maybe it's caught me blindsided, and that's kind of, well, hang on. No, this is supposed to be kind of serious. What's going on here? And maybe I've watched The Band of Brothers so many times from HBO, and that's very serious. And you do get your comedy elements in that, but it's not a comedy episode per se. And this, I just wasn't expecting it. And so I think next time I watch it, I'll giggle along with them landing on the moon like that. But it's okay. You're so precise in where you've landed in, so you can carry out your mission. And it's just that is so far back in the distance of what's important to the viewers at the moment. It's just I feel a little bit left out on it.
I get what you're saying. I think part of it is, when someone says to you Apollo astronauts, or just astronauts in general, you tend to think of Neil Armstrong, John Glenn. There's a particular image in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
These are very serious, professional, science-minded, just kind of like, best of the best sort of thing. But and I think this also applied when you think about, like you're saying, a band of brothers and the soldiers and all that. When you strip all that back, these are young men, late 20s, early 30s. They're not too dissimilar from us, I suppose.
Mm.
And I think to a certain amount, they have very similar drives and reactions and things. The whole dropping down, if you remember back to the episode Spider, we actually see how the lander lands when we were doing the tests.
Yeah. And
it is that little drop. And they do this drop and they're just like, oh my God, we're on the moon. And it's just that sense of, think about it. You've spent, let's say, the last 5 years building to this moment. The Gemini missions were what, in the early 60s, 62, 63?
Mm-hmm.
So you've spent all this time. Your goal is to get to the moon. You've managed to beat out all these other guys. You're not the first, but you're amongst the first ones to the moon. You've flown 4 days there. You've finally gotten there in this ramshackle thing. And after all the training and everything, you've finally done it and landed. And it's all worked. And it's just like, oh my God. And if you're Al Bean, who we're seeing this from, let's remember, he was sat in the Apollo applications office on his Jack Jones, just kind of, twiddling pencils and stuff like that until Pete Conrad showed up. So I kind of understand that sort of a reaction. I think that's entirely fitting. And again, from what I gather from this episode and from what I know from the transcripts, that's kind of accurate. I'm pretty sure after this, NASA were a lot stricter on what they could say, like when they landed on the moon and stuff like that, because those transcripts were public and everything like that. And they wanted to maintain that air of professionalism, shall we say.
Maybe that's what it is, because because this one's a kind of hidden mission, because it's held up besides two wonderful missions that went on, and for good reasons. And where was I going with that? I feel that them having the joke, I think it's the jock thing that comes through. Astronauts aren't really portrayed as the jock type guys, but in real life, I suppose they would be, because they're living right on the very cusp of technical advancements.
Yeah.
And at any moment, they can go into a test airplane, muck around with it. Look at Neil Armstrong nearly dying in that bedstead thing.
Yeah.
They're test pilots. And so they might as well have a laugh while they're there. And for these test pilots to go up there and, they are going to be whipping towels at each other all the time. I'm sure there was a couple of towel whips in the LM as well. Actually, I could see that happening.
Yeah. Especially once they stripped out of those spacesuits.
Yeah, man. Just towel whipping constantly around there. Yeah. And farting and stuff like that. Just general laddie, jockey type actions, really. And where that's not come through in the general public's vision, then it seems a bit weird, a bit strange, a bit odd. Whereas, I suppose if you think about it, it's probably a lot like that. And the Armstrong and the Lovell type missions are very few and far between.
Yeah. I mean, again, just thinking back to the episode, it kind of almost starts off with, he gets hit in the face with a camera because he forgot to take it off from the mount.
Mm.
And then he goes, oh, I didn't have much luck on cameras, but more about that later. It's the fact that you could almost tell that story as and unfortunately, because he forgot to remove a camera and he almost died because of it. But instead, he's just like sitting there a bit stunned and like, hey, Al, you there? He goes, yeah. It's a much different tone, and I can absolutely see why this would be a bit jarring, especially if you weren't expecting it.
I bet that camera was heavy as well.
Oh, I guarantee that. Legitimately, if it had been a couple of centimeters to the left or right, it probably would have killed him.
Yeah.
But then I like the fact when, he's on the moon setting up the the TV camera, and, it doesn't work. And then you got Sam Seaborn, the news reporter, goes, oh, well, it's hard to get a TV repairman, to any city in the US, let alone the moon. And you go, well, we'll try it later. And when it goes, what the fuck's happening up there?
Well, okay, that's the first swear word we've really heard in this series as well, isn't it?
I think so, yeah, pretty much.
See, that took me by surprise as well. Oh, man, yeah. It's very peculiar. I'm torn on it. I really am. 1 minute, I really want to. I love all the matching Corvettes they've got.
That was great with the Commander, LMP, and CMP on
that's
the side of
brilliant. I love
which
that.
Is awesome. I really like that. I really liked, when they're talking about on the moon and all that, like the secret photo, and they have a little timer they were going to do. And they were doing it, mostly because they just wanted to, a little something for, they're one of the people who were developing the photos to not quite understand how that happened.
Yeah.
These are the motherfuckers that fuel those moon conspiracy shit.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that, he's the kind of guy, Pete Conrad or Al Bean are the kind of guy who 1 in every 100, when someone comes up to him and says, did you fake it? He's probably leaning and goes, you know what? Yeah, we did.
Well, you imagine if they did get that photo. Well, who took that photo? That would be the question, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and that's the thing. They could feel they would troll the fuck out of them, which would be hilarious.
One thing that really did bug me about it though, having that timer, and then they found the timer, and then they threw it, or he threw it over his shoulder.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe it's just me really nitpicking on things, but kind of littering on the moon already. It's just, don't do that.
And this goes back all the way back to the Apollo 11. I mean, there's so much littering on the moon around those sites.
Well, yeah, look, dropping the LEM back onto the surface of the moon as well.
Yeah, which something else which only just occurred to me. It's like all of a sudden they've lost like all that extra space they'd have available to them.
Yeah,
it's like, I would have thought you'd want to bring it back. So you've got a living room, perhaps a bit of a porch you can go and hang out in on the way, but. I suppose for safety's sake, it makes sense to ditch it there and then.
Yeah.
I hope they remember to bring their spacesuits back over from a LEM before we ditched it.
Yeah. What did you think of the ordering of the actual episode, though? Because I found it, even though you're telling a story, and sometimes you need to jump back in a story to tell the future of the story and vice versa.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes it didn't make sense.
You mean how it kind of starts off in the quarantine thing, and it's almost all flashback, isn't it? But then you get flashbacks within flashbacks. Yeah,
that, and also they're talking about, I think they're already lifting off by the time they're talking about the landing as well. And it's like when I go off on one, I start telling a story and I go off, and then all of a sudden 5 minutes down the road, I forgot what I was actually talking about. And so we just and it happens to me all the time. And it felt like one of my stories where I was talking about something, and then the start happened, and then the end happened, and then the start happened again, something in the middle happened. And it just felt, it worked, but it was a little jarring.
I get that. I think it's,
1 minute they're on the moon, next minute they're preparing to separate. To go down to the moon, and it's kind of order, maybe, I don't know.
Again, it doesn't bother me too much, because again, it kind of starts off with him talking about because he's in the quarantine. He's like, I'm lucky to be here. Then he talks about the camera landing on his head. Talks a little bit about the TV camera, and all that sort of stuff. I get what you're saying, but it doesn't bother me. It worked narratively for me, the way he's telling it. Because again, like you said, it's an individual telling a story.
Yeah.
And you do, when you're telling a story, you kind of bounce around it and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough.
So yeah, I mean, that's just it for me. But I don't really have a huge problem with it myself. I mean, there's a couple of other things I just wanted to kind of touch on. This is the first time we have mention of the Apollo Applications Program, which is all of the stuff they wanted to do with the Apollo hardware after the Apollo missions had finished, like the moon landings.
Mm-hmm.
Things like, there was talk of a mission to Venus or a mission to the Jovian moons. The money never transpired, so they didn't do it. But it's interesting what they're talking about that. I think the only thing they actually did out of it was Skylab, which was the American space station, which was based on an S4B, and the Apollo Soyuz meetups with Deke Slayton, and that was the last manned missions before the space shuttle. So that was kind of all that came out of that. And what else was there I wanted to mention? Just the quarantine thing, because I don't think we've really touched upon it too much in the last one. But, there was a real concern that they might bring back space germs.
Yeah.
So they had to go into quarantine. Really, the lunar, I think it's regolith is the technical term for that stuff, is really, it's like worse than asbestos, because, it doesn't have wind to kind of what's the word I'm looking for here?
Erode
it, basically. Yeah. So it's really sharp. So yeah, you don't want to be huffing on that stuff.
But it's like baby powder as well, though, isn't it? It's as fine as baby powder, but as sharp as knives.
Yeah, exactly. And and that's why when they were saying about how it's important you try and keep the dust out of the experiments, they're just wetting themselves laughing. It's a bit like trying to say, can you try and keep the water out while you try and assemble this thing in the middle of the Atlantic? Yeah, it's just like no, not happening. And yeah, the other thing I just wanted to mention was Al Bean. What he's done since is he's now an artist.
Oh, is he?
He is.
Is he the guy that puts moon dust into the paintings, or was that Buzz?
No, this is him, Al Bean.
Oh,
because
is it? Okay.
He got to keep, I think, his moon boots and some other bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And they had dust on them, so he takes some of that dust and he actually paints images from of the moon and all that, and he incorporates a little bit of moon dust regolith into the paintings, and he tries to convey a sense of color and wonder that the human eye can see, but cameras certainly over time, but even today can't really get across.
Yeah.
So if you have the money, you too can buy a painting with real moon dust in it.
Wow.
From Al Bean, which is pretty awesome. Ryan Nagata actually made him a replica spacesuit as well. Who we spoke about briefly a couple of episodes ago.
Yeah. I think I read about that in the book Moondust.
Oh, yeah?
A couple of years ago, yeah. I'm sure that's in there, where the guy's going around and trying to speak to the guys that have landed on the moon. And I think Buzz and Neil Armstrong were some of the hardest to get hold of.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, that's well worth reading as well. Definitely. There was one thing I wanted to touch on. The actual mission itself, the call signs for the ships that they were flying in. You had the Yankee Clipper, and the lunar module was called the Intrepid.
Yes.
The actual mission, hang on, it was 10 days. I'm just looking up and down here. Yeah, I think it was over a course of 10 days. They spent 7 hours on the EVA. I think 3 hours on each.
Yeah, because they did 2 EVAs, whereas Apollo 11 was just the one.
That's right, yeah. Well, yeah, Apollo 11 was just a case of, yeah, we've done it. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Let's go.
Yeah.
And so these guys spent some serious time on there.
Yeah.
Which is cool. The one thing I was impressed with this episode was the ascent from the lunar surface itself.
Yeah.
When they went back up to rendezvous again. I thought that bird's eye view over the top, straight down the line, where you just see it blast off. And they're talking about the flag that got knocked over on Apollo 11, so they set the hell of stuff. But I just thought...
Couldn't think to set the flag further away.
Yeah. They were in kind of a rush, weren't they, really?
Yeah.
And these guys got to walk a serious distance as well, I felt. But yeah, I just like the shot of it straight down the gullet. It's pure straight up into your faces, and it's just, once again, it's a maneuver that we're going to see again and again and again, and yet they've chosen a different angle for it, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I think if you look in the Apollo photo archive, I think we've linked to it before, but I'll dig out the link to stick in the show notes. A lot of the photos from the Apollo 12 mission are some of the best. They're just really good photos.
Yeah, I've seen a panoramic one. Which...
Yeah, there's a cool one. If you go to the Wikipedia page, you can see this. But you got like Conrad standing next to the Surveyor 3, and you got the LM in the background and everything, and it's just like a really good shot there. It's just such a shame they didn't get to do the picture of a pair of them, especially some of those poses they were practicing. You know, kind of boxing and all that. I was like, that would have been hilarious.
That photo with the LEM in the background. On the slope of the moon, the slope of the crater, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I've used that for the album art for this episode.
Oh, excellent choice.
So if anyone wants to go and see that, just try and pull up the album art for that.
Mm-hmm.
But the suits that they use on this, and especially the helmets, because they have kind of visors, blinkers, if you will.
Yeah,
I kind of prefer. I love the Apollo 11 suits. I love the design of them, and they're pure classic, and they will never go out of fashion.
Yeah,
I like these. I like the helmet and the kind of blinkers that you have on the helmet. I don't know what it just feels like. It's years beyond Apollo.
Well, what it is, it's refinement as they went along. Each time they did a mission, they'd learn a little bit more. Strangely enough, though, they didn't have the blinkers on every mission. I'm not entirely. I think they were. You could. I'm looking at a picture here of Apollo 17 suit, and you can see the blinkers are separate pull downs to the center visor thing there. Because one of the things, it was first set up for the Apollo 13 mission, but obviously didn't land on it. But they put the red stripes on the commander's suit. So you could easily identify who was who, because it's a bit difficult otherwise. But yeah, each time they went, they were learning just a little bit more, refining stuff a little bit and just getting things a bit better. But yeah, I'm with you on that one. But yeah, if you look at that picture with the blinkers on, you can actually see the tab at the base of it where you can lift those up individually.
Oh, okay. So they are movable. That's cool. Man, everything that they did on the moon in this episode, though, I loved.
Yeah.
I thought it was really well filmed. Even them just jumping up and down on the moon. I'm jumping up and down on the moon. I thought it was great. I thought it was really well done.
They're having fun, and that's what I love. It's the fact that, yes, this is an important scientific gathering mission. I quite liked when they mentioned, Al Bean acknowledges the fact that all of a sudden we're not just astronauts, we're geologists and we're seismologists.
Yeah.
And, we're all these other kind of scientists. Because, again, as we mentioned before, these guys were not scientists, but they're being asked to do all this science. Mm-hmm. They only sent one scientist to the moon. But I like the knowledge now. But still, at the end of the day, they're there, they're having fun doing it. And it's like, I would hate to think someone got to do this and I feel kind of bad for Neil Armstrong, because I think he felt the weight of all this on him, and he probably couldn't enjoy it. I mean, there's a very famous photo of him in the LEM afterwards, and he's got a smile on his face, like it's done, and
it's a relief, relaxed. Isn't it? Yeah,
it is. But you don't feel like he felt the weight of the world on him for every moment from then until his death, I expect.
Yeah,
these guys, we have, I almost imagine Pete Conrad's first words were, "Gaze upon this field. This is the field in which I grow my fucks. Cast thine eyes upon it, and you will see that it is barren, for I have no fucks to give." That's what he is like. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool, basically. I really like and respect that. I like the fact that they had fun. They did all the mission objectives. They took the time to honor their friends, who passed away. And this is something other astronauts would do later. And when we get to the Apollo 15, we want to talk about it, but it got a bit out of hand and people started getting in trouble for it. But, I really, really like that. I also felt that, unlike in the Apollo 11 one, we got to know a little bit more about the command module pilot, Dick Gordon there.
Yeah.
Which I thought was nice as well. I quite like his, just him flying overhead and just acknowledging their position. You don't think about that's what he was doing. You just think that, oh, he's off doing his own thing. But no, he was doing the surveys and stuff like that. Having the whole oh, no, you're not coming in my clean spaceship and trickling all that up here. That's just funny.
I think that's one thing I could relate with this episode, though, because you did have, all of a sudden, you did see from Albeen's perspective about Gordon, and it was, well, I'm going to the moon and he's not, and that's kind of unfair. And there's a moment where he kind of wants to, swap places with me. You deserve this more than me.
Yeah.
And yet it didn't happen. And there's a respect of, no, he's been chosen to go down to the moon. You feel for him. You really do feel for him going all that way and then not being allowed to go on to the moon.
You almost feel like the entire time Albeen has imposter syndrome a little bit.
Yeah.
He feels like, I shouldn't be here. I'm not qualified to be here. At any minute now, someone's going to realise that.
If he was British, he'd be apologising for everything, wouldn't he? I'm really sorry. Yeah. I'm really sorry. I'm sat here, but I'm really sorry.
Yeah, and it's just literally up until the point where it lands. He probably thought any minute now, Pete Connor was going to turn around and go, actually, you know what? You probably shouldn't be here. That's just kind of a vibe you get to it. So... yeah, no, I mean, for my money, I really enjoy this mission, and I enjoyed this episode quite a lot.
Yeah, good. The other people that did die before to let Bean onto this one, it was Ted Freeman. He was killed in a T-38.
Yeah.
When a goose hit his plane, I think it was. Charlie...
Not goose from Top Gun, I hope.
No. Yeah, just falling down. Oh, he survived. Oh, no, he didn't. Charlie Bassett. Is it Charlie Bassett? When Elliot C. crashed his plane. That was in... oh, what episode was that in?
I found it was episode 1.
Yeah, first episode, wasn't it?
Because these were all the guys out of the astronaut group, which Albeen joined up with.
Yeah.
Which group was it?
Oh, and
Astronaut Group 3. There you go.
Yeah.
Because you had
Roger Chaffee as well,
who died in Apollo 1.
Yeah.
And that. So yeah, I mean, there's quite a few there from that group who didn't make it. There's lots who did. I mean, Michael Collins was part of that group as well. But yeah, you definitely, because again, I think it's important to remember whose perspective the stories are being told from, and from Albeen's perspective, this episode makes a lot of sense to me. That's how I feel it should be done. And yeah, I mean, for my money, it's one of my favorite episodes. I certainly enjoy this a lot more than the Apollo 11 one.
Okay, cool. Right, good. Do you have anything else to say about this? Because I thought it might be a short one, but yeah.
Sorry, did I ruin your plans there?
No, not one bit. No, I just don't want to go out. Oh, the Apollo patch. I want to talk about the Apollo patch as well.
Yes, sure. One
thing I didn't know about this is they had 4 stars, and now it's blatantly obvious, and obviously 3 of them are for the guys Conrad, Gordon, and Bean. But the other star was for Williams as well, wasn't it? Who should have been on there, and so it's all sentiment, etc. Really, isn't it?
It's very sentimental. I mean, you got a nice kind of naval Clipper ship there, in reference to the ship Yankee Clipper.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of nice. I'll just say there's 2 shots in this episode which are actually taken from the film Apollo 13.
Oh, okay. What ones?
It's both referring to the carrier. So when you see the helicopters flying away from the carrier, that's from Apollo 13. And when the helicopters coming to pick up the capsule as well.
Right. So, and what about stock footage? Do you know anything about the stock footage? Was there any?
Again, all the launch stuff is fantastic stock footage of a beautiful Saturn V going up, because we do like our Saturn V stock footage launches. I mean, the entire launch sequence is just really good. But when you're watching that, you really see, it was a dark and stormy night. It definitely doesn't look like the sort of day to be launching a spacecraft. And you got this cool stuff as the engines all ignite and as it goes up, and it's that great NASA 16mm footage. And yeah, it just starts going up like a Christmas tree with all the alarm lights and everything, and it's just like, oh wow, this is bad.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Have you seen the high res images from the lunar orbiter, where they took photos of their mission, and you can see the bottom half of their
The Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiters.
That's it, yeah.
Moon landing photos. Yeah, I have seen those ones, yeah.
Yeah, and you can see the little trails where they were. It's like watching ants, isn't it? It really is. It's so
They
cool,
are ants, Elton. They are. Yeah. Yeah, no, that it's very cool. And again, I just love the fact that, he managed to land with such precision right next to the probe they launched a couple of years later. I mean, again, they had to know, can we land with precision? And he went, yep, hold my beer.
Yeah.
He did the job, so.
Totally proved it as well, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I like I said, it's night and day compared to Apollo 11, but I think it was always going to be, just given the nature of how much expectation there was on the Apollo 11 mission compared to this one. Up until this point, I'm sure a lot of people didn't know the name Pete Conrad, Al Bean, and Dick Gordon. Mm-hmm. So, and they had a certain amount of freedom because of that to go and do their thing.
Cool. And the backup crew as well. We have David Scott, Alfred Warden, and James Irwin.
Yep.
Who later went on to the Apollo 15. Is that correct?
They flew on Apollo 15. But there's some controversy about Apollo 15, which we'll talk about when we get to that episode. But they took a few souvenirs up with them that they probably shouldn't have.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
Controversy ahoy! Juicy danglers. There
contraband on the moon.
Oh, a little bit. Oh, yes.
Yeah, because that is the Galileo experiment as well, and I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah. But yeah, so cool. I mean, again, don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but I'll tell you, none of those astronauts ever flew again.
Well, yeah, okay. I'm looking forward to finding out that stuff there.
Right, so only what, 3 episodes to go? Yeah, 3 episodes to go. So
excellent. Right, anything else you'd like to put onto this episode, or should we leave it there?
I think we should probably leave it there. I'll give you a link for the Apollo photos for the show notes. Mm-hmm. Also, I'll find you a picture of the trees so you can see Pete Conrad's tree lit in red, while all the other ones are lit in white.
Cool. Excellent. Cool. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me, Andy. That was excellent.
Always a pleasure. I think this is fun, even if we don't agree on episode. It's a fun conversation to have.
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting to be grumpy Buzz all the way through this, going, yeah, it's rubbish. Yeah.
Oh, no, that's the Formula One tomorrow.
yeah, it's true. Yeah, true. Speaking of that, can anyone else find you anywhere else on the internet?
Of course you can, if you know how to cyberstalk someone. But if you're lazy, you can just go to rogue2media.com and listen to the podcast there. Because let's face it, there's a pretty good chance if there's a podcast there, I'm on it.
Yes. You're 90% of them, I think, at the moment.
It's getting that way, yeah.
Yeah, please pop along. If you are into your podcasts and stuff like that, please pop along to rogue2media.com. You can find me and Andy talking about the Band of Brothers and this and the Formula One season as well, which is kicking off very, very soon. And I'm saying very, very soon. It's a matter of hours from when we're recording. But, in the future...
it's like 8 hours from now.
Yeah, in the future...
Not from when you're listening to this, because Elton's going to have to edit this before he uploads it. Mm-hmm. But from when we're recording, in 8 hours.
Yeah. It'll probably be... This might even be dropped after the race. But that's... People that don't like Formula One, they're just going, oh, shut up, just skip to the end. Please don't. Listen to the Shonky Lab as well, because we've got a new episode coming out this Sunday, and that's
what idiot have you got on that one?
That's me and you, for crying out loud. Oh, Jesus.
It's no wonder people think we're the same person.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. I'm going to have to get someone else on for the next episode. I think
get Lee Harvey on, it'll be fine, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's already planned as well. I think we're sorting out his dating profile. Lord help us all.
No, just him.
Him. Yeah. Do you know what? The ideas that we have in mind, he's going to need it. He really is going to need it. Please pop along also to the Black Dog Podcast as well. That's blackdogpodcast.com, and you can find that all the show notes and stuff over there. That's a film review podcast. All these podcasts that we are talking about, they can be found in iTunes as well. So if you have 5 minutes, go along to there, leave a 5-star review, and let us know about it as well. So I think that's around about it, isn't it?
Oh, no, you're forgetting we have a Patreon. And if you get us to $2 billion a month, we will go to the moon.
There you go. Yes. So chuck us a buck.
Yeah. Chuck us a buck. Get us to $2 billion a month. And me and Elton will go and record a podcast live on the surface of the moon.
Yes. Even though it scares the bejesus out of me going up there, I will do it for you guys. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. It's fine.
We might even film it. Might drop some YouTube videos about it.
I think if we're going, we'll at least take an iPhone video with us. Just it'd be fine.
If we take an iPhone video, we'll have to get like conductive gloves as well, and you know what they're like. They're crap.
I'm sure if you open it just for a second and just swipe the camera thing, it'll be fine. What's the worst that can happen?
Exactly. Yeah. So pop along to all these places. Let us know that you're listening. Please review and share it around with your friends. So until next time, what is the next episode? Let me just check what the next episode is. Oh, it's the Apollo 13 one, isn't it?
Oh, you mean the one that comes after 12?
We interrupt this transmission. Oh no, we interrupt this program. There we go.
The next, again, not spoiling anything, but it differs from the film, whereas it is primarily told from the point of view of the ground.
Okay.
So, if memory serves, I don't think we see anything from the point of view of Apollo 13. It's all done from the ground and the wives and all that. If you want to know what actually happened on Apollo 13, go all the way back to episode 0 of this podcast, where we reviewed the film Apollo 13.
So juxtaposition, really, isn't it?
It'll be, yeah.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, I haven't seen this, haven't seen the next one, or the next one, or the next one, or the next one, or the next one. So it's all new to me nowadays. So thank you very much for joining me once again, Andy.
You're welcome.
And thank you to everyone that's made it through until the end. Until next time, bye-bye.
Ta-ra.
You didn't say I should go.